Hello, everyone. Welcome to SGS Writes, one-on-one author interview series. I'm Shawnee Smith, founder of SGS Writes. This evening, I am delighted to introduce you to our guest, Emé Savage. Emé Savage lives in Eastern Kentucky with her author husband, A.M. Holmes, and three feline overlords, Rosie, Tilly, and Milo. Her writing tackles themes like blind faith, loss of innocence, trauma, found families, disability issues, and classism. And May authored the Genesis Chronicle, an epic fantasy series, and her debut sci-fi novel, Beneath the Copper Sky. Welcome, May, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled. I've been wanting to do this for a while, so thank you.
Thank you so much. And May, who or what inspired you to become a writer?
Oh gosh, that goes all the way back to my second grade teacher, actually, Mrs. Barnes from Millbrook Grade School in Laura, Illinois, way back when. She just introduced me to the idea that people write stories and you could do it too. So the very next day, I took a bunch of loose leaf note paper, stapled it together, and wrote a story. It was about a one-eyed, one-horned purple people eater who didn't eat people, was very misunderstood, and was really a nice monster. So that was my first story. And so I've been just writing ever since.
Fantastic. Who or what influenced you to specifically write novels?
I was really inspired by Madeleine L'Engle. She wrote A Wrinkle in Time. And I love the way that she combines science fiction, fantasy, and like the mysticism, the spiritualism as well, all into this one story. And she not only wrote that, that's part of like the time quintet. So it's a lot of time travel. There's a Noah's Ark retelling in one of the books. It's just completely fascinating what she does with the entire series. And I thought, I want to do something like that. That sounds like something I could do. So that's how Echoes of the Gidat started. It started with this premise of a creation story on a different world and ran with it.
Fantastic. Were you able to get your book signed by her?
No, sadly, no. She's from England, so I would have to go over there. And then she passed away, I think, in 2011. So yeah, I would have loved that. But yeah, her works will. I mean, they have a prominent space on my bookshelf over there. So
Fantastic. In your latest novel, Beneath the Copper Sky, the main character,
Hermione.
Hermione, thank you,
Yeah.
Hermione, is depicted as a driven, serious, and analytical young lady. What was your motivation to provide her with these attributes?
Well, as you know, a lot of times we take from our own experiences. And at that age, at 18, 19, I was a very driven and ambitious, very serious, analytical person. I still am very analytical, but it was like not a lot of people took me seriously. So I felt I needed to take myself seriously. And I was just very determined to do something more than where I grew up. We grew up economically disadvantaged, and education was not pushed as an avenue to pursue, and so that was something I was very driven to do. And so for Hermione, I wanted to incorporate some of those attributes that I had at that age that I think would be very relatable to anybody at any time. A lot of times we feel like, at that age, we don't feel like people are taking us seriously. It's that change from childhood to adulthood, and learning how to be an adult and how to pursue things. And the analytical aspect is more of how I approach things. I'm ADD and also autistic, so it was a way to contain some of that chaos that often finds its way into my life. So being analytical helps me to kind of cope with that and to curb some of that um, chaotic tendencies that I have. So yeah, it's just something I felt like is something I knew, something that I remember being like at that age, and wanted to really put that into her personality.
I know when I was reading, I could really just picture her, and just like you, I'm analytical, and I could identify with things that she was going through.
Yeah, so I really like her. I love writing her. I love every aspect of her. She's just an amazing. I wish I wish she was a person, but she's just really. Yeah, I just really enjoyed writing her. So I want to see where I go next with it. I'm a pantser, so let's start there. So I really don't know where she's going to go in the next book, but someplace interesting, I'm sure.
I can believe it. Hermione has a complex relationship with her mother that eventually leads her to question many things that she thought were true. Why do you think it's difficult for some people to accept new ideas or beliefs?
I think we get real comfortable with how things are. I think the phrase that I hate the most is, well, this is the way we've always done it. It's always been done this way. I hate that. Because it might have worked at one time, and it might have worked for some people, but it doesn't always work for all people. And I think we should be constantly challenging that. But for some people, I think that discomfort is what makes it really hard to do the change. So if somebody challenges you about a belief system, the automatic response is to get really defensive real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times some people don't ever get past that. They just stay in that what's comfortable to them. And well, my group of people say, well, this is, you're fine. This is okay to think this way, and this is the way we've always thought, and it's always worked for us. And never go beyond that. So I think it's hard for a lot of people. I won't say a lot of people. Some people that just never get past that. And I don't know why, because I don't completely understand that. I feel I want to continually challenge my beliefs. The way that I grew up, I mean, there were certain challenges that I have, but there are certain things that I have that was a privilege that I also have to continually look at and challenge and talk to different people and get their perspective on life and how they do things and what's working for them, not working for them, and really constantly challenge how I'm looking at the world. So yeah, I think that's very important.
Right. It's the only way that you can evolve and grow.
Exactly.
So Beneath the Copper Sky tackles the dangers of group thinking, opposites being complementary, for example, light and darkness, and importance of curiosity. Why was it important for you to include these topics in your novel?
I think group thinking can be it is extremely dangerous in some situations. Because it doesn't allow for other ideas. It doesn't allow for that constructive discourse between groups of people. It doesn't allow you to see that there's other ways of doing things and that there might be another way to do something. So wanting to include that as part of the conversation, because I think it's relevant to how we deal in the world today. So like in the book, Demeter is not exactly the richest city in Titan, but it's definitely not the derelict, which is the lowest income level. And so this idea, well, they could have done more. They had room to bring people over from the derelict to make the life better, but they chose not to because they felt like, well, the status quo, this is the way we've always done it. And then ended up being disaster for both of them in the end. So I think it's dangerous to stay there. We always should be challenging and being curious about how things work and why they work the way that they do, instead of being so afraid that we don't try to actually do something different to make everything better, to elevate everybody.
Mhm.
So, so yeah, I felt that was really important to include that because I see, and I don't know if this is true outside of America, but I see that a lot in America. That it's a big problem here, and I think it's not helping us as a country become the best we could be. I just feel like we're on this decline, and a lot of this is not being curious about how things actually work and the systems that are already in place and how we can change them, make them better.
That's true. And a lot of times the media just only shows you what they want to show you. They don't show you
Exactly.
the full picture. You have
Yeah,
to
they,
do
they
your
have
own.
like yeah, they have like an agenda that's going on. So then you really have to dig kind of deep to figure out what's going on there. Um, I used to write articles for an online publication, and it was dealing with like socioeconomic effects of public policy. So it would go into like I would read legislation, so like 900 pages of legislation, just to see what was in there and who was actually backing this and what kind of special interest groups were funding this and why it was passed into law and what else is in there. Because sometimes they have things that are hidden in there that you don't even know about. But who's going to sit and read 900 pages of legislation?
Right.
Except for me. I'll read it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you learn a lot when you really dig in there, and it's like you can get commentary from pundits and things like that, but you got to go to the source and see what's actually in there. What did they actually vote on? What's actually in there? Or a research study. What does that actually say? Not that clickbait that you see, that says this headline to get you to click on it, and then it's just a very basic summary, and it's not even what the research said. So you got to be curious and go and read it and see what it actually says, because it could be very surprising. Um, so yeah, but that's me, the analytical person that likes to go read that kind of stuff. But I know the average person doesn't. But I think people would be really surprised to see what's actually in something.
So true. Emé, what advice would you give to writers who are a bit hesitant to publish their first book?
Oh gosh, because I was one of those writers. I wrote Echoes of the Gita at like my freshman year in college. I started writing it. And it took me 15 years to actually finish it because I was, working off and on, going to school. Life gets busy. And so I'd work on it a little bit here, just something that made me happy, at the end of the day, I'd sit down and write a little bit. And eventually it ended up being a novel. But I had no intention of letting anybody see it in the beginning. I'm like, huh. Yeah, this is just for me. I'm doing it for fun. I'm never going to let anybody see it because I don't have the confidence didn't have the confidence at that time to kind of put it in front of somebody to see what they would actually think about it. But in 2007, my dad died. And, things, you look at life and you think, what am I doing? Well, I always wanted to see my book in print. And so on a whim, I did print on demand just to see my book in print.
Mhm.
And then lo and behold, somebody actually read it. They said, this is pretty good. Needs a little bit of work. That's actually a pretty good story. Do you think you should pursue something a little bit more? Um, like maybe an actual publisher and things like that. So I did, and I got uh, brought on to a traditional publisher for a bit, and I learned a lot. But some of the changes that they were asking me to do weren't really what I wanted to do. So we parted ways after a while. And then I went back to self-publishing. So um, the publishing world back in 2007, 2009 was very different than what it is today. So when I came back after a lengthy illness in 2018, I came back to Instagram that was very different than what I saw back in 2007, 2009 with Facebook, because I was part of the Facebook community. And it was such a supportive and warm and knowledgeable community that I decided I was going to try self-publishing and see how that went. And so 2019, it relaunched Echoes onto Amazon KDP and got a lot of great feedback, got some feedback from a critique partner that really boosted my confidence. So I think for a new writer who's thinking about publishing, it's perfectly fine if you just want to write for yourself. Nothing wrong with it. There's plenty of people who do that. If you really are thinking about publishing, I would ask a lot of questions. There's a lot of people who are willing to give you a lot of information about how they did their journey, what they found. Like, yeah, don't do that. Here's something that worked great for me. It might work great for you, but it's worth a try. Here's some information on it. People are so generous in this community with their knowledge. So I would definitely start there, because maybe you do want to get into the query churches. There's people who have done that. They can tell you all about it, how to write a good letter, what their experiences were. There's some people who do hybrid publishing. They can tell you all about that and how they got through that situation. There's people who have done self-publishing like I have, and we can tell you everything there is to know that we went through with that. And there's some people that even do episodic, because that might be an avenue that people like. So so you don't know until you start asking questions. So don't be afraid to ask questions. And when you're ready for feedback, because that is the scary part, getting feedback for the very first time on your work, it's terrifying. But when you make connections with people like us in the community who are very supportive and like to encourage those little baby writers to step out there, we'll gladly read your stuff and give you some feedback and tell you what's good and what you might need to work on a little bit, but mostly what's good, because the first time you get feedback, you really want to boost them up. Like, yeah, this is the good stuff. Yeah, keep going. This is great. You're doing this great. I really love this. This is a great story. Here's a couple things to work on that might make it a little bit better, So, yeah, I would start getting that feedback, because that builds the confidence. And then the rest of it is just logistics. The rest of it is just when you decide how you're going to do it. That's just logistics. The story, getting that confidence to feel like you've got something good to share with the world. That's the first thing.
What current or upcoming projects or events would you like to share with the audience?
Okay, so I am working on the sequel to Beneath the Copper Sky. I'm about 10,000 words in. I know that's not very far, but I kind of got stuck and I need to do more world building. So I need to do a little bit more research on something that, will help the story go forward. But it takes place on Earth. It's a very different Earth than what we know right now. It's had climate catastrophe, war, an asteroid strike. So it's barely livable for a human, barely. So I'm wanting to do a little bit more research about what that would look like. If there were people still living on Earth, what that would look like for them, get a little bit more aspect on there. How long it would take Earth to get back into equilibrium after something like that. And is there a possibility of helping that along? If humans have contributed to this catastrophe, could they not also contribute to the healing of that Earth as well? So kind of looking at that environmental aspect of it, like there's got to be some little bit of hope. We yes, got ourselves into this, but is there a way we can get ourselves back out of this and reclaim what Earth once was? So on a grander scale, science fiction, really catastrophic, but maybe there's a way to go from there, a path to go from there. So that's kind of the setting, the world building behind it. I want to make sure the science is good on that so that I'm solid on the science. And then the story is going to go from there. So the main character that I'm starting with is Wylan Gonzalez. He was in the first book. So we're going to see things from his perspective, which if you've read the first book, you'll be like, yes, Wylan, we love Wylan. And then I also like to include an alien aspect perspective. So like in the first book, it's Awal, who is a mycological entity or a sentient mushroom is essentially what he is. And then Shadow. And then Shadow apparently is a fan favorite too. So Shadow is going to be the second perspective in that book. And so we're going to see their point of view from their aspect and see how that works. I love that play of like aliens looking at humans and like, what is going on there? Just kind of that outside perspective, like, okay, you guys get a little bit out there. So I love playing with that a little bit. And so we're gonna see where it goes from there. I feel like I got the characters down. I need a little bit more of the science to support the background there, and then the story's just gonna go from there. But I don't plot. I'm a pantser, truly. I just make sure that the world building's solid and make sure the characters are good, and then I just set them loose and see where they go. So it's a lot of fun. So I don't know where it's going to end up, but it should be interesting.
It sounds like it'll be exciting. Can't wait.
Yeah. Oh, and the next event that I have coming up, I'm going to try a Comic-Con. I've never done a Comic-Con before. So I'm going to do a small one. It's going to be in Peoria, Illinois, which is near where I grew up. So Peoria, Illinois has what they call a Peoria Con every year. And this year it's going to be March 2nd and 3rd. So I'm going to have a booth there with my books. I don't know if anybody goes to Peoria. I'm not sure it's a destination, but if you happen to be in the area, come on out. I'll sign a book for you. And yeah, I'll probably even be in cosplay because, it's a Comic-Con. You got to have fun with it. So yeah, so that's my next event. And then I might do another big one in Michigan. And then I want to see what's going on in Kentucky. So I want to get familiar with where I'm going to be living or where I'm living now in Kentucky. So.
Sounds exciting. How can our audience connect with you, Emé, and purchase your books?
Well, you'll find me most of the time on Instagram. So that's at EME _ SAVAGE. And that's Instagram. So I spend most of my socials on that one most of the time. I'm also on Facebook, so you can also find me there. EME .SAVAGE. So I do spend some time there, but Instagram is the most. I am going to get my website up, I promise. People have been bugging me about it. Websites used to be really labor intensive. People tell me not so much anymore. So yeah, I just got to do it. So yeah, I guess I need to find a provider and get all that set up. Make that a lot easier for people to find me. But yeah, definitely Instagram. You can find me over there. So
Yes, and I'll be sure to put all the links to your book and your social media in the description of the video.
awesome. Thank you.
And May, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm looking forward to your next work and best of luck with all your events coming up.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.